and welcome to the Revolut Insider Podcast, where we explore all things Revolut from the inside out. I'm your host, Alex Skrill, and joining me today is Head of Growth for Partnerships, Deborah Wajsbrot. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the show today to talk about partnerships. As you know, partnerships aren't just about deals, but they're about vision and strategy and creating moments that leave a lasting impact. So I wanted to get your insights.
Yeah, I'm excited to share a bit more about our approach to partnerships. It's true that we've been lucky to partner with some exciting brands, so the likes of the NBA and big festivals or Manchester City. So very excited to be here and share more about this.
I mean, these are high stakes partnerships that I think not only drive brand recognition, but also they propel business growth. And they also have like a cultural relevance for local audiences.
Yeah, as you say, it's different set of objectives as we associate ourselves with these brands, but approaching it from these global opportunities, but also being highly relevant in the local markets.
Taking the global approach, but localizing it.
Spot on.
In your current role, you sit on the growth team, but I know that you also kind of have a foot in business development. What does this mean in practice, and how do these two areas intersect?
It's a dual approach that I find very interesting at Revolut. We all sit within a team, within a department. So ultimately, we have a line manager, but we also sit within a function. And for example, myself, I sit within the growth team and leading growth partnerships. But I also have a foot within the business development function. So I would see the growth team as the engine.
The engine,
Fueling the growth of our business and multiplying the opportunity by 10x. And business development and the approach that we have to forming these strategic partnerships is about creating these new highways with strategic partners externally to drive additional growth for departments.
What an interesting way to view that. Like one is the engine, the other one's the path that leads you toward these next goals.
Exactly. And as a business development function, we are looking at that commercial approach to creating these partnerships to fuel new opportunities also for business.
Let's talk about these new opportunities because partnerships are a huge lever for growth. So can you break down Revolut's approach and how it differs from other companies?
We have a very interesting approach to partnerships because for us, it's not about, many different set of partnerships. It's about finding the right partner for us. We approach it in a very data-centric approach. So we want to identify the right partners that have the right brand alignment with us, that have the right audience, and that can fuel the type of opportunities that we want to deliver. So it's a matter of finding like-minded type of partners that are innovative like us and that want to create that type of experiences with us.
I'm sure that as you explore partnerships, it's about trial and error and finding what works. In your role, how much room do you have to experiment?
I think that's what I love at Revolut because we are not about looking at what we will do in 3 years from now. It's all about getting things done. It doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all and that you can, test anything. So you have to have a very robust approach to everything that you do. That part of the assessment that I mentioned earlier. So making sure that we understand who we want to partner with and, what these opportunities could look like, but also what the value is that we can deliver. So what are these type of revenue opportunities? And then once you have robust enough framework and understanding of what it can drive and that it's validated, it's about executing it and going after this type of opportunities to test and understand the impact it can have.
And this is something you enjoy about your work because you have flexibility to test different things?
It's what I love indeed. And I think it's very characteristic at Revolut because you are able to achieve a lot in a very short amount of time. So it's about testing a lot of things. If you fail fast. So you're able to cut your losses quite early on, but also making sure that you learn from that and scale from here. So we're all about data. We're all about understanding what works and what doesn't. We track these things on a daily basis to understand the impact of the different activities that we pursue. And from there, it's okay. We've seen that this doesn't work. How do we turn it around? How do we make sure that we actually double down on the things that really work?
And having the awareness of adjusting as you need to.
You need to have that kind of agility. I mean, it's important to test. It's important to figure out what works. And I think in the world of partnerships, that's something that we have done. We have created some of these opportunities that we are talking about from scratch. And it was a core part of our DNA when approaching this type of partnerships.
And you've been involved with some massive brands working at Revolut. Can you name a few that stand out to you?
I truly love all our partnership portfolio. We are lucky to partner with some of these big brands that are highly recognizable IPs. If I think about the journey that we had from the beginning of creating some of this first sponsorship, we had some opportunities to partner with the NBA, which at the time was one of the biggest partnerships that we signed, quite a landmark one, associating ourselves with their international games in Paris 2024. We also have extensive presence across airports. Our partnerships with Rome airports,
Rome.
In Italy, has been a very exciting one. At the time when we were looking at creating a new distribution channel with vending machines, so we have actually vending machines distributing free debit cards in airports.
Yes, great concept.
Quite exciting. They were a proper visionary, and that's also what we look for in partners, because they were the type of partners that felt there was an innovation, a way to enhance an experience, which was all about our approach here. And they were very excited and keen to embark on this journey with us. And I think it was quite a first successful pilot in that test and learn approach that I just mentioned, that allowed us then to look at expanding across multiple geographies. Helsinki, in Porto, we just recently launched in Brussels.
Interesting, yeah. What goes into finding the right partners to work with?
I think this is a crucial point, because finding any partner to create a story together is actually something that anyone can do, but finding the right partner is very important. So I mentioned earlier, aligning with the brand, aligning with the audience, but we also look for the same mindset. We are very particular. We like to innovate. We want to create this new amazing story and bring amazing experiences to our customers. And I think that's what we find in a lot of our partners, and all of them actually that we carefully select. It's making sure that we have the same approach to creating the right moments. And that's what indeed I love with this innovation of bringing a vending machine and finding people that believed in it and wanted to deliver it to passengers.
How do you measure success after you find the right partners?
When we form the partnerships, we understand what are the type of objectives that we want to hit. So it could be about driving user acquisition. It could be about penetrating new audiences. We will assess a lot of these different metrics, and we would look at the impact that we have with the partnership. And that's where, going back to your question on selecting the right partners, this is important for us, because we would leverage a lot of resources, a lot of different channels to amplify the different activities that we have together. With that in mind, we look at these different initiatives, look at the growth that it delivers, look at the engagement opportunities also that we have. So thinking about the 50 million plus customers that we have and how we are enhancing their experiences, and then looking at things like a brand uplift, the perception, the trust of our customers, and the value that we deliver overall as a whole partnership.
Makes sense.
It's true that when we look at forming a partnership, we would want to exploit the different avenues and make sure that we set ourselves for success. So leveraging our strengths, and that's also why our partners choose us. They know that we are a unique brand. They know that we have amazing marketing and growth capabilities with more than 150 members within the team. And so that opens opportunities to amplify their activities. It means that we will define the scope, but we will look at, okay, for this specific one, we want to leverage our unique network of influencers. And we want to look at doing performance marketing together or bringing experiential activations within the event that we select. So I guess the approach evolved, but for sure, once we find the right opportunities, it's about doubling down and making sure that we put the resources that allows us to drive the impact we want.
Speaking of driving this impact, we've also mentioned having a global approach. But as we go into these local markets, Rome Airport or localized events like La Velada in Spain, how do you adapt a global perspective to local nuances?
That's actually at the heart of our activity. We develop an overarching vision, a global brand platform, and we want to ensure that it's quite consistent across the different locations. So when you think about launching different airports in different territories, that's where localization comes from, because you want to make sure that you're highly local, that you're highly relevant. And then that's the approach of maybe having the overall recipe, but then making sure that you do it with the local flavors as you execute in the different markets. And for me, that's where our local teams are crucial, because they would know all the local specificities, then address the right audience with the right approach.
You don't really start to make this connection until you get to a local level. Like, we can recognize the brand on a global scale, but it's not until I feel seen by the brand that I think that's when you have a customer for life, let's say.
You're right. So it's something that is actually a key pillar for us in how we approach marketing and growth. we are on this path of building the number one global primary bank. And with that, it's not only about being number one in terms of numbers globally, but it's also about being number one in every single geography that we operate in. And with that, it means resonating with the audience. So we need to make sure that we speak the same language. And the local teams that I was mentioning are crucial in that exercise. We want to make sure that we bring you the partnerships that you really care about and create that messaging and that experience and that day-to-day use of our products that make sense for you.
Exactly. That resonates with you.
Yes, 100%. I think, in everything we do, it needs to make sense. It's not only about financial products and day-to-day use. It goes even beyond that. So we bring lifestyle experiences where your interests lie.
And Deborah, when it comes to working on these large-scale partnerships, I'm sure they're not without their challenges. For you, what's been the biggest challenge that you've had to face?
When you're thinking about the partnerships that we're looking at crafting, they can be complex deals to execute. And I guess when scoping and negotiating these opportunities, the involvement of many stakeholders, that can bring some level of complexity. And also because they are large-scale type of partners, it's about agility. So making sure that we can progress at the pace that we want and finding the right way to dance together in that process. Now, when you think about execution, we would like to go all in and to deliver the maximum impact with these partnerships. And I guess that can be also the complexity of the role from looking at bringing an event to life and having an experiential activity within the space to deal with different set of influencers or bringing a campaign to life within the tube in that city where we have a big event. But the vision and the potential impact associated with this different set of partnerships makes it all worth the effort.
I think you mentioned this key word. You said it earlier and you said it again now. It's agility. And I love that word because it's so true. I think that when you're faced with a challenge, if you're able to be agile and adjust, I think that's when you can really win in a space because you have the flexibility to change and to adapt.
What we've seen over time is that first, even if we build some frameworks and approaches to this type of situation, this type of partnerships, there's no one size fits all. So as you say, you need to have agility, you need to understand how to solve problems, and that's some amazing capabilities and skills that we look for within our Revoluters is understanding how to approach different challenges. And you build that experience, and maybe you have seen that before, but in some cases you run into that problem for the first time. So it's knowing how to bounce, how to create new opportunities and think creatively when approaching these situations.
I love that. Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to ask Deborah a bit more about your experience working with these large-scale partners in sports and entertainment.
Sounds like a plan.
We'll be right back with more insider views. This episode of the Revolut Insider Podcast is brought to you by Revolut. Thank you to the 50 million customers around the world who have joined us on this journey to change the way the world does money. And if you want to join the revolution, come be part of the future of finance. Check out our open careers at revolut.com/careers. We are back on the Revolut Insider Podcast here with Head of Growth of Partnerships, Deborah Wajsbrot.
Hey, Alex.
Deb, when we had a chance to catch up a bit ago, you told me how you studied engineering and then from there went to strategy consulting before joining Revolut. How do you think those experiences have shaped your approach to partnerships and working on growth projects?
I think my engineering background brought me the analytical skills and the problem-solving mindset that we need in the day-to-day at Revolut. While I think that the beginning of my career as a strategy consultant helped me bring the ability to learn fast. As a consultant, you bounce from one project to another, sometimes in different industries, different type of projects that might not have any link between one another. And you kind of need to become the expert super quickly on projects that are sometimes like very short time frame. So I approach the day-to-day of partnerships with the structure of an engineer, but maybe with the mindset of a consultant, aiming at solving the different problems, but also building solutions and partnerships that are scalable and feasible on the long term.
It's great to have all these different aspects you can just merge into one and help you in your current role. And I think people with different backgrounds can add different value because they're bringing these unique perspectives to the table.
I think that is what is interesting within Revolut because we have so many different profiles and backgrounds that come together. And it's important not to be shy about these things and how people can actually bring their parts to the wider picture that we are creating. And we have so many different smart individuals that are part of the different teams, not only within growth and partnerships, but in the different areas of our business.
And going back to partnerships, lately we've seen Revolut lean into sports events and music festivals. Why these categories?
Entertainment and sports are truly powerful platforms because ultimately it's about engaging in a very authentic ways as our customers go about their daily lives, their passion, what really excites them in the day-to-day. It brings a great way for us to engage, whether it is about following their favorite team or favorite artists around the world, or bringing them the right exclusive experiences during that journey. And that goes beyond traditional financial experiences.
Yeah. I mean, I remember La Velada in Spain was, I think, the first big sporting event that we partnered with. From there, it went on to the NBA, and you mentioned Manchester City. How did these deals come about?
You're right. La Velada, for the listeners who might not be familiar with it, is a boxing event involving streamers, creators, celebrities. It's located in Spain and organized by one of the top Spanish influencers called Ibai Llanos. We were partnering with Ibai already. We leveraged our presence within the influencer market to experience an event for the first time. We didn't have massive experience at the time of organizing events, and we took part of this quite massive event, knowing that year, this was the most streamed event, reaching a peak of more than 3.4 million viewers on Twitch.
Yeah.
So quite an interesting one and quite a great entrance into the event space. From there, we've seen some potential and we've seen some great results from driving acquisition, driving some of the metrics that I mentioned a bit earlier. And we decided to build an approach for us to test and scale these opportunities a bit further. And I guess that's where the NBA or partnerships just like Manchester City came to life.
This is kind of where we're seeing the integration of business development. And I think a big part of business development is deal making and being able to negotiate. How is it negotiating with these big brands?
I think negotiating with such big partners involves a lot of planning and most of all, having some very strong clarity about what you want and what you're trying to achieve. Because quite often, if you haven't figured out what will drive the right impact for you, you can spend a lot of time and can waste a lot of time trying to shape this package and negotiate the right things. So I guess having that clear view of where you want to go, what are the experiences that you want to deliver is important from the beginning. So approaching it with planning, approaching it with the right skills and understanding also what are the objectives of our partners. It's not only about us, obviously.
Exactly.
Our approach is important. The impact that we want to drive is very important. But it's also understanding what our partner is trying to achieve, because if those align, that's where you're able to have an exponential impact and have also the right motivation and involvement on the other side. So it's really getting that clear understanding of our partner, getting a clear understanding of the opportunities that they can offer and what really matters to them for us to drive the right impact.
And for it to create this mutual value for both parties.
100%. I mean, a successful partnership and a long-term partnership, which is what we want to look into. Obviously, in an approach of testing and scaling, you might look at a short-term frame and how you can get these learnings very early on. But we want to make sure that both us and our partners are satisfied and can create the right type of value that's the secret to long-term partnerships.
Yeah. I know that Revolut has ambitious plans for the future. We've been talking about aiming to reach 100 million customers by 2026. How does our partnership strategy support that vision?
Within growth, we are all motivated by the same goal of fueling this 100 million objective by the end of 2026. Partnerships would be core to that. It's about uplifting the brands, the perception, the trust across the different territories. And also they are quite high impact, highly visible opportunities. So when you talk about some of these bigger brands, you can create something that is seen by millions.
Yeah. NBA, Uber, these are seen by millions of people every day.
Exactly. And that's our approach. I mean, we want to associate ourselves to the best in class, to some of the biggest brands, creating also the right product and experiences for the users. So when you think about where we sit in partnerships, there's quite a big impact in upper to mid funnel.
Which is usually around brand awareness and starting the conversion process to have a new customer.
Indeed, it's driving that brand awareness. So making sure that people discover us, or there's an uplift in the perception that they have and the trust that they have within our brand. So partnerships do play a role in that, but we're also keen on not only driving that, but making sure that we drive conversion and acquisition towards that goal of 100 million. So we do that within our activities with partnerships, but it also supports the different activities that we have on the different channels, because you might have seen us on the NBA and then you would see us on a performance marketing ad and then convert a bit better thanks to your understanding of the brand from a previous touch point.
And that's kind of where you can measure success, right? Look at the data. Are these activations, are these collaborations actually driving what we're trying to achieve?
Data is core. So we do track that on a daily basis, understanding the impact across the different channels. That helps us then define the success and the potential future of different set of partnerships and activities.
And you mentioned this idea of looking at the data, also testing and scaling. For you working in partnerships, what's been the biggest learning and biggest takeaway?
I think what is important is that analyze this part. So figuring out quite early on what really works for us and being able to double down on that. So with these different tests, we understand that something might have been considered as a good idea, but actually didn't really work for us.
That idea of fail fast, learn fast.
Exactly. That approach is crucial. I think it's being able to, if you fail, understand what it means for your future and scale from there.
You have a lot of experience working in partnerships and in business growth and business development. What advice do you have for someone who's interested in a career with growth or working with partnerships?
What is important for me is to be curious and to embrace experimentation, as we touched on earlier. Then maybe being driven by impact. We are all about driving results. You can put a lot of work on something, but if you're not driving the level of impact that you want, it's not hitting the mark. So being driven by the impact that you can make and having the ability to prioritize on that basis.
Great advice. And what about for you, Deborah? What advice would you have given yourself when you were just starting out in your career?
That's an interesting question because there's so many learnings across anyone's career. I would say every step doesn't have to be calculated like maybe on a chessboard, and that sometimes it's good to embrace that experimentation, to take a leap. Doing it in a controlled manner, obviously you want to mitigate your risk, understand what you're facing, but it's really about making sure that you test these things quite early on and that you don't build plans, for too long.
So not only adapting this fail fast, learn fast in a business mentality, but also in your personal life as well.
It's important to step out of your comfort zone sometimes, because it's easy to do the things that you already know, that you've tested and experimented. But we are motivated at Revolut and in general, I guess, as individuals to disrupt, to do things differently. And I think that only comes when you try to never settle. You try to challenge yourself and take an approach that is creative. So for me, that balance between calculated risk and stepping out of your comfort zone is interesting.
Yeah, and I think, this idea of success is shared. So the business is growing, but you're also growing professionally and personally with these new challenges that you're facing yourself and stepping out of your comfort zone to experiment and take these risks.
100%. I think that Revolut is a great opportunity for us to do things that have never been done and that can really impact people's life. I mean, I've been a user of Revolut even before joining, and I found it fascinating what we were doing and how we were changing people's life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what motivates us, and that's how we can really grow and contribute to that story that we're writing.
Well, I'm really excited to see what new partnerships we collaborate with in the future. So thank you again for being on the show today. Deborah, it's been really interesting to get a little insight into this exciting field.
For sure, more to come on the partnership side, some truly exciting ones. So thanks for having me today. It's been great to chat with you.
And for those listening, you can add the podcast to your favorites so you don't miss an episode, and follow us on Instagram at Revolut Insider. This has been the Revolut Insider Podcast, where we explore all things Revolut from the inside out. Until next time, remember, never settle, because the sky is not the limit, it's just the beginning. Revolut. Change the way you money.